Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video and hope you all had a great Pride Month. Shout out to everyone. So yeah, this is my June wrap up of all the books I read in June. Much less than last year and last month, and a little bit disappointed if I'm being completely honest. I mean, I did read two books that were really good. However, I just felt like, I don't know, I wanted more from this month. But anyways, this is going to be quite a short wrap up, hopefully. I started off the month listening to I Don't Want to Be Crazy by Samantha Schutz. This is an audiobook, memoir. It basically details when she leaves her hometown to go to university. Leaves quite a kind of emotionally distant boyfriend that doesn't really add much to their relationship, but she seems to be doing a bit more of the work in some sense, and a little bit controlling-ish parents, kind of. I've sort of forgotten it, to be honest. But basically, when she starts going to uni, she starts to have panic attacks and dealing with anxiety and other mental health conditions, and it just basically explores this time of her life, and then it goes when she's working as well, after she's finished university, and just different relationships, different friendships. And I think it's quite good at talking about this mental health condition, the reality of panic attacks, and sort of how to help yourself, but also how to help other people that have also experienced them, and how you can learn from your own growth in dealing with them, and her talking with different therapists and trying to find someone that actually works for her. But I ended up giving a 3.5 stars. I just feel like it was a little bit samey and a little bit repetitive. I get that when you do have panic attacks, when you do have anxiety, a lot of it is rehashing the same thing, so it is quite realistic, but it wasn't the best reading experience. And yeah, it just sort of lost me, I guess, as it went along. I wasn't really that invested with it, but it was alright. It was fine. I read History of Violence by Edouard Louis, just translated from French by Lauren Stein. Gave this 4.25 stars. Earlier in the year, I read End of Eddie, and I did prefer that. I think I gave that 4.5. But this is his second work after that, and it details the night when he met another young man. I believe it's Christmas Eve, yeah. And they go up to his apartment and do things, and then later on in the night, into the early hours of Christmas Day, he quite brutally puts a gun to his head and rapes him, and quite brutalized, and it is quite vivid in some parts as well. And I would check some with trigger warnings with rape and sexual assault, and the way he does talk about it. He does also talk about it quite flippantly in some sense as well, and I've read some reviews that are oh, I can't believe someone talks so casually about rape, and I'm yeah, but it is his story. And I feel when you first read it, it's a little bit hard to understand what's really going on, because it does jump a bit. But when you get more into it, you learn that it's his retelling in some sense of the night, some interactions with his friends afterwards, and the police and medical hospital team. But quite a large portion of it is him overhearing his sister retelling the tale to her husband, and then he puts his own sort of commentary in the italics whilst he's listening, overhearing her basically. So I feel when you get past that, it is quite good. It's well written, and I think it's very powerful what's him being able to take this story and have ownership of it. And I'm not the best versed in how to talk about someone's sexual assault or something that they've gone through, the correct way to phrase things, I guess. but he talks quite a lot of how in some ways this was taken from him by his friends making him go to the police, and also by some of the medical teams as well. And like this, I guess in quite a big way, now I think about it, the way he's overhearing his sister tell his story again is that like she's changing bits or not saying things exactly how they actually happened or how he's told her they happened. So I thought he does do quite a good job at exploring that part of the coming to terms with something that has so brutal that happened to you, and quite a lot of like how to move forward, and I guess also things just coming back to you a lot. And the man that did this to him was a like the child of an immigrant to France, and it does talk quite a bit about like the immigrant experience and the way people are treated, the racism and xenophobia prevalent, especially within the police system, and also in some ways how it affected him. But yeah, I would definitely recommend giving this book, taking into regard the triggers. And I just feel like it's very eloquently written, and I definitely do want to read more by him. I still really want to read Change, hopefully by the end of the year. And also, but I would quite like to get his like book that came out after this and before that one, which I think is like a woman's disturbances or something like that, which is about his mother. Yeah, I shall see. Then I listened to The Lost History of Billy McQueen by Neil Alexander. It's an audiobook as well. This I gave 4.5 stars to. I did really enjoy this book. It's like a sort of like a mystery, historical, contemporary as well. Two time frames. The first is in like 2023, I want to say, and it's following Billy, the main character, and he's living in like Margate. He's sort of like recently lost his job, not very happy with his life, doesn't really have anyone, and he still has the memory of the disappearance of his childhood like best friend and boyfriend Connor on his mind. And he gets a call from his like mother's neighbour in Northern Ireland. His mother's had a stroke, and like, do you want to come over because you might not be able to see her and things like that. And then he does, and he finds a tape that was in like the wardrobe, sort of addressed to him, that was sent like not that many years ago, with Connor's handwriting, and it's a tape from Connor. And he tries to work out in the current time frame with like the help of some ex-friends and stuff, what actually happened with the disappearance. And then the other time frame, which is like back and forth, is back in 1987 or 1989. And it goes a bit more before Connor's disappearance, and we learn about Billy at that age, coming to terms with his sexuality, and his like mother and her new like pastor boyfriend, like that goes on to become a husband, and his extremely anti-gay rhetoric, and just sort of like the time and place of being in Northern Ireland during the 80s, and also just like the pop culture and the music and the fashion and the films and just everything about that time. And I just absolutely adore books set in the 80s so much. I love like just learning about the culture. I just wish I could like travel back and just like experience it for the first time. And like he has such like a fondness for Kylie Minogue, and like reading like smash hits and like getting like new Converse and things like that. And you just learn so much about him and his relationship with Connor, that for many people it can't be a thing, and the trials and tribulations with that, and then also the politics at the time, and like the troubles, and like the disappearance case. And we learn a bit sort of about the like pressures on the police and maybe a lack of doing things because of other things on their mind. But yeah, that's what I'm really going to say about it. I think it was a really engaging, entertaining book that brought up a lot of themes. I really love like the references and the way it like made the world so realistic, and it was just like very cleverly like researched, I guess, but also I believe the author was probably around then. You really get a good sense of the characters and their dynamics, and it felt a little bit like Matt Cain books because like just like the in-depthness of these characters and just like their humor and the inclusion of important topics as well. So yeah, I would so recommend giving this book a read. I think maybe it kind of lost me towards getting to the end. I wasn't as engrossed as before, but it still like held me and I was intrigued, and definitely a great book. Then DNF'd Normal Women by Philippa Gregory at just over 3 hours, which I think was about like 10% of the book, because it's really long. It's not bad by any means. It is one I would actually recommend. I do think it is a good book. It is extremely well researched, and it's a very in-depth study of so many normal women, I guess, from history, and how women were so integral to creating history. And the first part was about from the Norman Conquest till many years later. I'm not fully certain on dates, and we just learn about the different issues affecting women and different policies and laws, and learn about so many women that had some power, and what their roles were at the time and their interactions and things like that. The reason I DNF it just because I feel like I just couldn't really get to grips with it at the time. At the moment, it's just very strong non-fiction-y, and I also feel like it'll be a better book to read physically as well as the audiobook, just so I just feel like it'll be a better experience. So I may pick up the book in the future and maybe get back to it. I feel like it is one I would like to read, just to learn about the history that women have added to and created, and been lost from, because it's a very important subject, and I love hearing about women's stories. I love empowering women. Similarly is Quiet Revolutionaries and Warrior Women, or something, which I read last year, which was a 5-star by Kate Moss, and I absolutely loved it. And I think what I kind of preferred a bit more with that is because in between there was elements of this memoir-esqueness of her trying to uncover the lost history of her own great grandmother, who was an author and celebrated at her time but nobody thinks about now. And the way it was split up was a little bit more easier to understand, and I did also read and listen at the same time in tandem. So I do feel like doing that with this book would be good in maybe a year or so. But read it. It is a good book. I just didn't have the brain capacity at the moment. Finally, I read The Surrogates by Robert Vendetti, with artwork by Brett Weldy. This is a compilation of the first, I believe, 6 issues of this comic, since there has been a prequel. But yeah, this was interesting. The reason I picked this up and read it is because I kind of fancied reading something that wasn't just straight words. I wanted to read a manga or a graphic novel or a comic or something. That was the only one I had with me. But it was decent. I think I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. It's really, I was actually really intrigued at the beginning. We start with these two humanoid things, surrogates, being killed, and the person says to them, live. And then we're following the police detectives as they try and uncover what's going on here, and it's set in the time of 2055, and basically everyone that can afford it, for the most part, has a surrogate, which is an AI robot humanoid thing, that goes around and does everything basically for on their behalf, and they just lay in bed and just watch the thing through their eyes, and you get the sensory things that they go through, you can smoke a cigarette and have alcohol and stuff, and you can sort of feel it, but you don't actually get any of the negative aspects of that, and do other things as well. I feel like it is it's an interesting book. This is one that I got from my in my uni in the arts building. They have like a book exchange thing, and someone must have like actually studied this, because there's some like underlining of like the quotes and things, like what people say. But yeah, it's quite good at like thinking back on this world that they've created with these humanoid things, surrogates, and the good and the bad and the inequality present in this society, and how like the people that can't really afford it sort of push to the sidelines in some sense. And yeah, I feel like it is a very interesting book. I'm just not really a sci-fi person. I'm not that keen on the genre. I really can't seem to really get to grips with it much. But it was entertaining, and I feel like I was very, very invested at the start, but then it just sort of lost me a bit as it went on. I feel like it was maybe a little bit rushed as well towards the end. But it is really good. Like, it is just like a normal comic, like, for the most part, but then at the end of each like chapter or issue, there's like these other parts that this is sort of I think it's like a script or something, and then there's also like a news article, sort of like an online article thing about the society. And yeah, I do actually think like it would be a good one to study, because I think finished in 2006, but then this third edition was produced in 2009. And like, I guess like thinking of the changes we've already come from then, with like use of AI, and it is like quite interesting. And I also feel like it touched on a little bit of this I can't remember. I remember when I did philosophy A level, there was this idea of this sort of like pleasure machine or something that like you can go into and you can experience every single pleasure available. And like, would you do that even if when you're in the machine you feel like it's you're actually doing it, but you're not really, you're just in the machine? Would you do that, or would you like opt for having the reality of life with the good and the bad, and sort of like working to have those pleasures, or having the consequences of certain pleasures? And like, I feel like that is a very interesting topic, and one that like you can really explore a lot. And yeah, this sort of touched on some of, I've got to say, there's also some like discourse on like the importance of like body image, and how these surrogates look, and especially for like a female character in the book, and how there's like a lot of emphasis on like female youth and beauty, and like the actual character who owns this surrogate no longer has this body. And her relationship with the potential reduction in the use of surrogates, and like the anxiety and hesitation to do so in some ways. But yeah, as well as a little another snippet that he tries to address within the book, I do think is quite good. I feel like for a lot of the like socially commentary parts, it's decent, but maybe it could have been a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, it is a comic, and it is trying to be like quite a quick read, so maybe I'm asking for a bit too much, but still, it was good. It was yeah, I would recommend it, for honesty. I think it is a decent book, and the artwork is good, and like in this issue there's like a behind the scenes of like how certain things are made, and yeah, it was decent. It was alright. It's just not really in my genre, so I wasn't fully engrossed with it the whole time. But yeah, 3.5 stars is still not too bad. Like, June was fine. I had originally planned to only read queer books this month, but 3 of the books weren't. You can read and enjoy queer books the whole year round. That is what I do. So yeah, but maybe I'll try more of an effort next year. I don't know, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a nice morning or night wherever you are in the world, and I shall see you very soon. Bye.